So, this was... I will say this as a preface. This was much more survivable than it appears to be. It would have been a long fight, and kind of, like, annoying to deal with, which is how grunt fights should be when you don't have large AoEs to take care of them. But you guys had a relatively good comp to whittle these things down relatively quickly and safely. And the way you behaved was very reminiscent of D&D and Pathfinder mindset, where preserving personal actions to maximize your ability to do damage and relying on your armor class and HP to carry the day is the name of the game. And in Angel Sword, you don't do that. I wonder if I should just add the Expeditioners. We'll give it a little minute. You know what? I think I might have to... How do I turn on my cursor midstream? That's a good question. Does anyone know if I can turn on my cursor midstream so I can actually use a pointer? I'm not seeing it. This is gonna bother me. you'd like to think it would be like a nice little check mark, right? That you can just click on and off. Okay. I'm struggling. I just want my cursor, please. I could probably capture cursor if I just... Maybe I'll do this. Okay, that's not working. Never mind. I wanted to be able to, like, point and draw on the freaking... What if I do this? What if... Does this work? Okay, I can see my cursor in the background now. No, please. All right, well, I'll just use my describey words. We'll just go with that. Let me bring this up so I have an image to look at. Alrighty, here we are, analyzing the zombie fight at the end of Expedition 05, in which Voltaire tragically died to being swarmed under by zombies. So, At the beginning of this fight, the group saw a lone zombie wandering around in a kind of like overgrown clearing. And when they went to investigate, they found out that it wasn't one zombie, it was 19 zombies. Just a big escalation. Now, agree with it or not, the zombies had a kind of surprise free movement where they were able to all stride and essentially surround Kalia like this. We're examining the first character death. So, right now, what we have is 19 grunts surrounding 2 characters. Well, let me grab something to drink. In more established TTRPGs like Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, regardless of the version, this would be a dangerous situation for the 2 caught in the middle, but pretty survivable. So in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, which is the most common background people have for TTRPGs before they come here and play Angel Sword, is you rely very heavily on your passive armor class and your HP to kind of like absorb enemy attacks while you get your own in. The game is designed around essentially standing in front of an enemy and you each slug at each other, hoping to reduce each other's HP down before the other one, relying on AC to carry the day and your HP pool to be your backup. In Angel Sword TTRPG, you don't really have that. While you do have a passive evasion, it's pretty low. Most people won't have more than 11 in that, unless they're a very agility focused, in which case you might see 12, 13, maybe even 14 on a passive. But what that means is even a grunt with 2 or 3 focus is going to hit you more than 50% of the time with normal attacks. It's just going to happen. Unless you dodge, you're going to get hit a lot if you're not positioned correctly. So one of the key abilities that you need to... Hey, Yandel. That you need to really keep in mind for fighting in Angel Sword, particularly against mobs of grunts like this, is your action economy and the action economy of the enemy. Just looking at this, the enemy has superior action economy to you. They are grunts, there are 19 of them. That means they have the ability to attack you 2 times across the 19 enemies. Right? You have 38 potential attacks coming your way if nobody moves. On the flip side, you guys only have 5, which means you all have 4 attacks per person if nobody moves, for a total of 20. You are beat out by 18 attacks by standing there and swinging. If you look at your RP, I really can't see this because the image quality is pretty bad. Kalia's got 8 RP, Voltaire has 4, Rai has 6, Taraval has 8, I think Vajra has 5. So, in one turn, they can exhaust all of your RP if you stand there and swing. This is the tactic that you would normally use in D&D and Pathfinder, where you stand there and swing, trust your armor to carry you through, trust your HP to see you through. But because of Angel Sword kind of horizontal power curve, your HP isn't really going to grow much unless you invest in... Yeah, these are images from the VOD. I literally just took screen snips on break. So this VOD is available. I'm pretty sure it's chaptered, so you can jump directly to the actual RPG session. So right out the gate, the first thing you really, really, really have to understand about Angel Sword is action economy is king. You are very strong individually against most things, because adventurers, heroes like you, have relatively high action economy versus any singular enemy. Grunts normally only have 2 actions they can take, you have 4. Which means you can move around and fight on your own terms because you have more action economy than them. But when things are this lopsided, it's on the other side. So you have to take advantage of the Grunt's limitations, while also playing not to plant your feet and swing. So you guys had a good general plan to begin with. Their initial plan was, let's exhaust as many of the Grunts as possible, use up their RP dodges so they're easier to kill, so you can kill them most quickly. This was contingent on Rai and Vajra were both Raijin, and they were going to try to abuse and use the static phenomena to do heavy AoE damage, because you guys didn't really have an AoEer. However, this required the enemy to be clustered, so the AoEs could do maximum damage, which means they had to be held in place. Now you had a dodge tank in Kalia and an armor tank in Voltaire. Hey, Dr. Bert. So these two were key to anchoring this plan. However, because they were anchoring, they're not moving. And because they're not moving, that means they are taking the full brunt of every zombie that could hit them in terms of attacks. And between the two of them, they only have 12 RP to defend themselves with. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they have 12 RP versus 14 enemies. So they have 12 RP versus 28 attacks. And you can see on the next slide, I think it's the next slide, what that means. In one turn, right? In one turn, Kalia goes from full RP and not touched to almost gassed in one turn. Voltaire is similarly, he is held, he's already lost 1 RP, and his armor's been doing the trick. He's heavy armor, so he's not really taking a lot of damage. And you can see their tactic already in place. See how many of them have the exhausted nature on them? That means they are ripe for heavy attacks. The problem is, and you can see how Kalia has realized this, that she needs to get the fuck out, is she's realized she can't take another turn of standing there being bait. So she's planning to get out. Like, attacks of opportunity, whatever, just let me out. So we're going over what they did. Same engine. Oh, I'm dumb. Give me a second. I'm going through my slideshow and you guys don't see that. We'll delete this. So let's bring up the next one. Next slide. So this was the surrounding moment. And you can see why they were going to make their attacks, or their tactics, cluster them, then do AoEs. Here is after the first round of discovering why that might be a problem. Okay? So, Kalia's almost out of RP, and once she's out of RP, she is going to go down very hard and very fast. She already knows she needs to get out, and she's risking to take multiple attacks of opportunity to do that. But she can't escape because there's a zombie blocking her path. Now, that zombie was still there. No, they didn't like double stack zombies there to prevent her from escaping. And you can see their exhaust plan is in effect. And because they didn't have AoEs beyond their static abilities, they are reliant on keeping them clustered very closely, so static can proc. But at this point, they've already come to the conclusion they need to kill this southeast zombie from Kalia that her movement's trying to go through. They need to get rid of that zombie right now to get her out. And that's what they do when she gets out. And she does get out, way over here, but look at her RP now. She's at 1. She's used multiple mana to movement burst this far. She's in serious trouble. She cannot go and engage in melee again. So, the cost of this plan has been completely gassing one of their primary dodge tank DPSers, and now they have abandoned Voltaire to hold the line against the zombies while the static tactic tries to go off. And this goes about as well as you'd think it'd go. With Voltaire being completely surrounded, the zombies encroaching upon the 2 Raijin, Kalia's staying very far away. Mana is a 1 regen per day. The red bar, their RP, their combat stamina, is full regen after the end of combat. So already you can see Voltaire's in trouble. Just them moving up to him, he is held, he's out of RP, and he's below half health. And then this predictably leads to Voltaire getting eaten to death by zombies while his friends watch in horror. Because he just couldn't keep up with the action economy. Even though they are obviously killing zombies here. They're killing zombies, the zombie count's going down, but they're not doing it fast enough. Their damage is scattered all over the place to exhaust zombies. And they're still holding their ground and trying to do as much damage as possible. This is what caused Voltaire to die. Yes, I know there were lots of bad rolls and lots of good rolls on the zombies' part, but there are things you can do in this game to mitigate even having bad rolls. So, let us... You know what? I'm just gonna... I realized something. I can just do this. Are you down there? Alright. What we can do is this. Boom, I've got my slideshow. So that's what happened. That is the facts of the encounter. They did a plant your feet and fight the zombies, trying to tank it out with their heavy tank and their dodge tank. That didn't work out. Voltaire died for this, but his distraction in dying allowed them to whittle down the zombies and win. So, what could they have done differently, utilizing the properties of Angel Sword's combat to their advantage? This comes back to, and I will repeat myself, to action economy. Now, even at the start of this, with them completely surrounded, those two, Voltaire and Kalia completely surrounded, you have three party members who are not surrounded. And this goes into understanding how the combat systems work, which I know not a lot of people do because it's new. Kalia is fast. We know this by her high RP. Her initiative is 10. She's mega fast. But Kalia is surrounded. And if I'm a fast dodge character who's surrounded, my ability to avoid damage is dependent on being able to dodge and mitigate the amount of attacks coming my way. Initiative is turn order, Astro. The faster someone is, the sooner they work in the turn order. So you have one turn, everyone goes, turn resets, next turn, everyone goes in the order of the initiative, highest to lowest. Faster characters generally have higher initiatives, so they get to act before everyone else. So, something that I don't think I've seen anyone use yet is the encounter start delay action. What this does, it allows you to set your initiative, but only lower. Now let me find the actual relevant ruling on it. Alright. A combat start action, delay. You may lower your initiative to any number between 0 and your initiative. This is important because Kalia needs all of her actions to get out of the situation, but she can't get herself out of the situation. She needs her party to help. So they need to start managing this action economy deficit right now. Remember, they have 38 attacks standing still versus 20 attacks for the party. So they're at a deficit of 18 attacks right now. So in order to get Kalia out of here, her using delay to go after all of her party members, after Vajra, but before the zombies, is what needed to happen. This would allow Vajra, Rai, and Terraville to target the southeast zombie, preventing her from leaving, and just burn it down instantly. The second it goes down, they can start spreading their damage out and start working to get Voltaire out. So, but these three needed to absolutely 100%edly kill the two southeast zombies to free Kalia and Voltaire. Ideally, they could do this in about 2 attacks each, so 6 total AP spent attacking the zombies, so they also were able to move. Movement is going to be key in surviving this fight. So once those 2 zombies are dead, that would allow Kalia to use the disengage action for 2 AP, and then move 20 feet out, or rather 25 feet out because she's rabbit folk, through the difficult terrain because her movement is half, 25 feet away, just down, as far away as possible. Hi, Runa. What this will do is it will force the zombies to sacrifice AP to move to her again. That means they can do at maximum 1 attack. So right now, because you forced them to move to you, you have forced them to sacrifice 50% of their attacks. Do the same thing with Voltaire. Have him move as far as he can, so he minimizes the amount of attacks coming towards him. If you want to utilize Voltaire as the primary, node to be the focus of attacks, you have him move between the zombies and Kalia, so they will swarm towards him, leaving Kalia the ability to harass the edges with movement and attacks. The rest of the group, Terraville, you should never be within reach of the zombies. You should be in the sky, maximum, you have no pressure, maximum heavy attacks on anything that catches your eye. 100%. Terraville should be in the sky as a pixie, just raining fire because nothing can interrupt him. Save the healing for emergencies. Your job as the healer right now, reduce the amount of enemies attacking. That's your heal button right now. Ryan Vajra, your idea of static chains, good. Good idea. Set that up while you move. Take 2 AP to move, 2 AP to blast and attack, and never be static enough for the zombies to catch up to you to do a full of attack round. So you need to move. You need to stretch take advantage of the fact that you have more flexible action economy with 4 AP, even with the difficult terrain, than the zombies 2 AP. You need to just keep them moving and keep yourselves moving. You will win the poke fight with this because your action economy is better. If anyone caught the fight that we did against the Crystal Behemoth yesterday, where it had a lot of attacks if it stood there and swung, we instantly transitioned to moving it around all over the place, forcing it to move, reducing the amount of attacks it can make. You do the same thing with a pack of grunts. If you have no one who can reliably AoE, like no pyromancers, no lancers, you need to just move. Take them down one at a time, focus your fire, move, and force them to move towards you. Mobility, not allowing them to even use their AP to attack you, is king, because they're all melee, and I think aside from Voltaire, all of them had ranged abilities. Maybe Kalia didn't? I don't know. But even if Kalia didn't, she's fast. She's got the rabbit folk speed advantage, so she could move in, hit something, move away. Back and forth, just hit and run. While Voltaire is the linchpin, barely moving enough to stop himself from being swarmed, but being close enough where they focus on him mindlessly because his heavy armor is better. Well, you would have to then stick to hit and run as well with Kalia. Just hit the edges. Even with the free move, like assume Florentino, assume it was a trap, where one zombie is there and all of the other zombies were pre-positioned and they popped out of the ground. They didn't move, they just spawned there. Assume that's what happened. Even in that situation, you can get out of that with a little bit of focused fire and then kiting. So the idea of trying to plant your feet and counter swing against enemies is a very bad plan for most of the time. Some builds are designed for that, but it's generally against single targets. So that's really it. Turning this into survivable would literally mean leveraging the uniqueness of Angel Sword combat to its advantage, where you can take actions in any order. You have 4 actions of universal utility to use, and you need to use them and preserve your RP to defend yourself. Having somebody calling the shots is very important. You either have the party leader to call the shots, or you can literally have party leader doesn't want to be calling the shots in combat. You have a battle leader. That's also a role you can fill. Yeah, there are times in this where you want to plant your feet and fire. Paravel here, he has terrain advantage. The zombies cannot reach the flying character. So his job was to plant his feet and fire 4 light attacks around or 2 heavy attacks around. Period. Maybe fly down and emergency heal someone if they're getting critically low, but it's better for those people to use a potion on themselves rather than Terraville wasting AP that could be eliminating zombies. So, and that would be the same for anyone who had other range attacks. So if Vajra can do range attacks, then if they're not focusing Vajra, if they're not close, they can't threaten him, he should plant his feet and fire as many attacks into the enemy as possible. It's all about distance, moving, managing enemy economy. Night Astro. If anyone had a flashbang, hitting the entire group with a flashbang would have been an amazing piece of utility. So this fight and many other fights that I've seen on stream so far have had this similar kind of mental block in terms of how to utilize combat. Yeah. The Divine Providence, very good play, just a little too late. Used to delay instead of capitalize, because you were already kind of in the death spiral when he used it. But I've seen it a lot where players will just like plant, post up, and then swing against the enemy, letting the enemy do the same thing. On ranged attackers, you need to pressure them. You need to prevent them from controlling your action economy. Against melee attackers, you need to relieve pressure on yourself by movement. Unless you are very confident in your character's ability to withstand attacks without spending RP. And this is where heavy tanks versus grunts come in. Yeah. So there's many ways you could have played this slightly differently to gotten a different result, but the primary thing you could have done is focus fire zombies down and utilize your movement to force the zombies to have less action economy than you. So just literally spending 2 AP to move 20 feet is enough to prevent the zombies from being able to harm you too much. Yes. So let this be a lesson to everyone watching and to those who were in this fight. You need to judge who you're fighting, what their capabilities are, and then kind of do a little tactical calculation. Who has the advantage here in terms of actions? What kind of advantage is that? In the terms of these zombies, their advantage was numbers, so they have a lot of actions between them all, and their limitation was melee only. So, in order to get around that advantage, you need to take advantage of their weakness, which is melee only. So it's all about investigating, finding out what the enemies are. It's why creature information is so important in the Moraine expedition. It's why duelist weapons are so crazy, having the ability to just move. Aw, hey Phantom Star, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Is anything about this confusing, unclear about how action economy kind of rules combat? This is one of the first fights where it was a really large swarm of grunts. The other fight like this was the pass fight with the zombie, or the hobgoblins, where there were a lot of hobgoblins, but they had mixed ranged and melee capabilities. So they controlled the action economy of the enemy using smoke, glitter shards, and terrain difficulty. So they knew, just by tossing the glitter shards where they did, they removed upwards of 50% of the enemy's actions completely, which tipped the action economy back in their favor. They had terrain to play around as well, but if they hadn't blocked the line of sight of the range, they would have been that severe action economy deficit. Instead, they tipped it in their favor, allowing them to be the ones to focus fire. So it's all about either surviving the consequences of the enemy having more actions to hit you with, or engineering the fight to the point where you mitigate their action economy while doing as little damage to yours as possible. And heroes, adventurers have an advantage over grunts in that regard, because grunts have less AP and less RP to work with. It wouldn't have been a bad play to group up, to kind of like death ball, because that would have limited the amount of zombies that can attack each person. That's probably the best strategy you could use if you still want to do the plant your feet and swing tactic, is to death ball. Get your group together, make as few avenues of attack for the enemy to hit you as possible, and hope that you can do more damage than you intake. Yeah, you guys stumbled into an ambush, essentially, so you didn't get to choose your starting positions, but again, if you wanted to death ball, you still could have extracted the two surrounded, gotten into a death ball, and then fought from there. So the surrounded part and handling that was probably the start of the failure spiral. The idea of using static as an ad hoc AoE was a good one. It would have allowed you to do a lot of damage very quickly across the zombie horde. But because you left two people static and let the zombies statically hit them, you couldn't proc up and stack up enough damage from that electricity to matter. But yeah. Honestly, with this party comp, the formation I would have is Voltaire at whatever point of the square is holding towards the enemy. And then you would have Kalia, Rai, and Varja filling out the rest of the square. And then Taravel, again, above the group, out of reach, just blasting. Well, I say left. I say you left them in there because your first tactic was to use them as anchor points to keep the enemy in place for the static procs. And that was evidenced by the fact that you were hitting multiple zombies to exhaust them. Let me, this one? Yeah. So you were going for exhaust, and it wasn't until the end of the first turn, in which you should have focused two zombies to get your friends out. It wasn't until the first turn that you realized you needed to extract your friends from the surrounding. So, but the damage had already been done. Kalia was almost useless because no RP remaining. Voltaire was grappled rather. It was the start of your death spiral, not choosing to get your two companions out of being surrounded instantly. And I get it, you just... Again, that's the knowledge gap, Mighty Germ. Knowing about the enemies. You didn't know specifically their stats, but you kind of assumed they would be weak just because, zombies. Yep. But let this be a lesson. Go for pleasant surprise that they're easier than you think, rather than being surprised that they're stronger. Yep. Moraine is about intel. We have the intel now. You know how strong the zombies in the Astral Line are. But in this case, it came at the cost of Voltaire. Any other questions or comments? Oh yes, you do not have to. This is a common A common failure among players is you think the player has to know everything for the character to know something. You do not. You can look the DM straight in the face through the computer screen and say, hey, I'm looking at this, I don't know what to do. Is there anything my character would know? I have these skills and this background. Is there anything my character might know about these? I'll roll for it. Yeah. Don't 100% try to rely on your character just carrying you through, but you can absolutely use your skills, your background, abilities to have any kind of knowledge that you, the player, might not necessarily have. I also get that, Mighty Germ. But you have to weigh that in the at the cost of, you know, just going into things blind. Or say the case of yesterday, where it was the opposite. The player, Leaf, knew more about what was going on because of her deep understanding and connection to the game development. So she didn't act on that until her character successfully rolled a check to be able to act on it. Yeah. I mean, this could even be... You can even go so far to ask... You might not even have any skills in it. You could go like, hey, are zombies a kind of common threat adventurers are known to deal with? Was this something that we would have learned through mentorship or personal experience as we grew up into adventurers? And the answer might be yes. You might get an answer saying, hey, yeah, zombies are definitely common. Here's about what they do. They're a lot tougher than they look. That could be all the information you get. That would completely change your tactics. Right? If you even got the hint that the zombies were tough. Like in terms of high HP pools. Or high guard. So, information. What Chaos said. The GM is not there to be the antagonist. The GM is there to help you tell the story you're collectively doing. So, my recommendation, never try to surprise the GM as a player. And rely on the GM to provide you with information that you as a person can't possibly know about this whole world that your character might. And honestly, most likely, if you ask a kind of broad spectrum question like that, like, would I know what this kind of creature is based on this background? The answer will probably be no. And she says someone might die tonight in Moraine all the time because the astral line is crazy dangerous. Hi, Jones. Yeah, no worries. That's kind of why I'm doing this. I really do want people to kind of appreciate how the game works. So, yeah.